Chairman, do you want me to turn the mics on yet? Okay.
No, I'm here now. I had a phone call I'd take.
Can you hear us okay?
Brett's going to be a little bit late. I don't know if he's told anybody. He's given that plaque to the junior college.
Tom, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You know, we took a drive up there to Northport over the weekend. We went over to the rec center.
See the one?
We took our drive around the rec center.
Oh, yeah.
It's terrible. What happened to it?
Well, they just haven't been able to do nothing there, you know, with this summer. They usually have their summer programs and stuff. People have been going in. Somebody broke the gate down the other day, somebody told me. So everything's still pretty good shape. Those kids that come from AmeriCorps, they went in there and they repainted everything. Every building was repainted. So
Anyway, yeah, I saw the cars parked outside. The gate is down, the chain. And I remember when I used to go up there years ago, it was nice, but man, I'm so disappointed. Got the sheds.
yeah, well, they haven't had the money to do the stuff they'd like to do because, you know, they keep the money, all the money that we make from the Jamboree keeps it open, you know, for the summer for the kids,
Yeah.
feeding them and letting them go there. So it's just one of those crazy things, buddy.
We used to have the barbecues over there. It was nice, you know. It was very
Well, the
nice.
barbecues and everything else, they're all still there. They got all the pits, and then they got those individual barbecues and everything right around the cement slab.
Well, we used to have
I don't know if you've seen them.
the union barbecues down there. And
Oh, I see. I remember that. Shoot.
yeah, and but it was nice down there, and I was so disappointed when I saw it there. What happened here? You know,
I know. It just breaks your heart, doesn't it?
it does. It doesn't look good at all. That's Jesus.
I know.
Maybe.
Well, when you retire, you can come up and help us start raising money to get it going.
Yeah.
Give you another job to do, buddy.
There you go.
Hey, David, I don't know if Brett told you, but he's given that presentation to the junior college this morning, that plaque that you guys done last week. So he'll be a little late, but he'll be in.
Roll call. Supervisor Frazier is excused. Supervisor Poitras? Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Here.
Supervisor Rogers? Thank you.
Wait a minute. No, sorry about that.
Now I can hear you.
Do we have any additions to the agenda?
No additions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. County Council, would you read closed session into the?
Yes, Chairman, members of the board, on your agenda today are two items for closed session. The first is conference with your labor negotiator. Your designated representative is Director Gomez under Government Code Section 54957.6. The employee organization is all units. There's also an existing litigation matter under Government Code 54956.9 subdivision D1, and the case is Hamilton versus the County of Madera. The federal case number is listed on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's retire to closed session.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, let me ask, is there any public comment on closed session items?
I got one.
Yeah.
Somebody's sitting in my seat, and they're about 6 inches taller than me, and I just wonder who that was.
Hey, Tom, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, that roundabout, it looks pretty nice.
Isn't it pretty nice?
Yeah, it is.
We just get PG&E to hook up those lights so we can get that generator out of there.
Yeah.
They're supposed to do it this week, so I'm waiting. If they don't, I'm going to be raising hell again. So
I like that that single lights before you get to the roundabout
yeah,
coming down. That's pretty nice.
it's pretty nice, isn't it?
It is. It is.
You know, hardly hear no complaints now.
So, and you know what? Bass Lake was plumb full. You
Yeah, oh, it is.
couldn't find a parking there.
No, I know, it's really bad, boy.
No, no, it was busy. It was busy, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah, it is. They're making money up there.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, I'm going to end this meeting here so we can start it in a closed session again.
Yeah, I'm going off on.
Okay.
Here you go. You know these people that's That's not bad. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
All right.
I computer.
Okay. We'll go by your clock. This meeting of Madera County Board of Supervisors is continuing. And at this time, we're going to open and close in memory of Lee Bailey.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to open and close for Lee and for Jan, his wife. Lee was, always engaged in his local community, always wanted what was best. Jan and he would hold me to task, which is what I think is important of our residents and citizens is that's how we make sure that the things that we need to get done up here. And Lee will be very, very missed. And I just want to give my most heartfelt condolences and prayers to Jan and her family as they deal with this loss during this time. And just once again, thank Lee for all of his support and for his community. And I know he's in a better place now. And thank you for giving me the time.
Okay, thank you. Also opening and closing in memory of Callie Trout, who was tragically shot and killed. She was a victim of domestic violence. We must remember her children. I guess there were 2 boys, I believe.
There was 3 altogether, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, my mind isn't so clear, but wow.
And I got one too, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead. Joseph Frank, right?
Yeah, Joseph Frank. Thank you. He was a Navy guy, and he moved up here in 2006, and he just got right busy with joining everything up here. And he was an Audubon guy too. He loved birds, and so that was he was the director of the Yosemite area Audubon. And then he got into ham radio, which he done also in the Navy, and he helped the mountain area amateur radio club, who helped the Cal Fire volunteers in preventing VIP program for working on several foothill fires, and with the Red Cross Disaster Service Group. And he was an emergency coordinator for Eastern Madera County for about 3 years too. So he's going to be missed, and he lived a great life, and he was a veteran, and just everybody's going to miss him. So thank you.
Yes. Also, we're opening and closing in memory of Mike Molina, who was the owner of Madera Percos.
Yeah. I was. Thank you very much for that too. Yeah, Mike was a wonderful family man. Owned and operated Percos. Fed a lot of people. Had a lot of my meetings there. His wife, he and his wife Kelly, were very active in Madera Youth Sports, Madera Unified Sports, and was always giving back to the community, always giving a place for kids to be able to go and participate in sports and achieve through those means, and he'll be sorely missed as well.
Thank you, Brett. This time we're going to have the invocation and pledge allegiance. And the invocation will be led by Pastor Sammy Neely from the Mount Zion Baptist Church. He's here this morning. Go ahead. And after that, we'll have the flag salute by Brett Frazier.
Would you please bow your heads with me? Heavenly Father, we come before you today, Father. Father, we come with troubled hearts, Father, as we look upon those bereaved, those families that have lost loved ones, Father. Father, in this time, we're hearing news every day and we see people falling by the wayside, but we know that you're still on the throne and you're still with us. But Father, we ask that you bless this meeting today, bless these supervisors, Father, bless all of those in attendance today, Father, that we do business and conduct business in a godly manner, remembering first our unity together as as Madeiranites. And so, Father, we thank you, Father, for the opportunity to come together and come before you. So we ask your blessings on this meeting in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Ready? Salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Republic
for which is standing,
one
one
nation,
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible.
justice for all.
And Pastor Neely was my my old basketball coach. You didn't teach me a lot of. I wasn't a very good basketball player, but you taught me more about leadership. So I sit here now, thanks to you. Yeah.
This time, public comment.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
We have one by WebEx. Go ahead and Sarah Sanders.
Okay. Sarah?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So it's time for a public comment, and I'm going to go ahead and start your clock.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak with you today. I'd like to introduce our organization first by reading about us from our website. The Eastern Madera County Recreation and Parks Project is a local effort dedicated to forming a special county recreation district for the Eastern Madera County community, focusing on a wide array of recreation programming and community opportunities. The organization is in the process of acquiring a 501c nonprofit status. The purpose for our petition to speak with you today is with regards to the first of what we hope to be many projects. We are hoping that you share a common goal of community enrichment and might be willing to join us in our efforts. We want to show the love we have for our community. That includes more healthy outlets for everyone, including our youth of all ages. The first project in mind is Jacobs Park, a skate park here in the town of Oakhurst, much like the one in the city of Madera and the one in Mariposa. The adolescent youth have been asking our community for this for quite some time. Currently, parents are either driving their children to these other places out of town so that their children can enjoy these activities in an appropriate setting, or the kids are finding places to enjoy these activities in places on their own, of which skateboarding is prohibited and otherwise not suitable. The projected cost for the build would be roughly $270,000 to $360,000. We plan to reach out to other organizations to collect the grants for this. But our biggest battle at the moment is acquiring the land to build this. We've reached out to the State Center Community College District with the new college campus in mind to request either a land donation or a portion of their land to rent, citing that this would be a good way to draw potential students to them. However, that location on 49 is not the safest route for kids to walk on their own. As such, and truly our first preference, the representative from the college suggested consideration of the current campus located by the county library. This would be ideal, being that it is safer and easier for most of the kids to get to that location on their own. Also because that is already a communal area for our town. The rep advised the college plans to sell the old campus upon completion of the new campus and mentioned the opportunity to purchase the old property is required to first be made available to local government agencies prior to going onto the public market. This is where you come in and where we are hoping that you might be willing to step up and help us with this. The college rep advised that the college might be willing to consider selling this property early with a contract in place that would allow them to remain on the premises until the new campus is prepared for them to move in. We will be formally asking for their consideration of this idea at the next board meeting they are holding, which is scheduled 4:30 p.m. on August 4th. The last two things that we have that we would like for you to know. Number one, the name Jacob. This is to honor a local youth who unfortunately passed away doing what he loved, skateboarding. He was struck by a vehicle. His family feels that this occurred because he did not have a proper place to enjoy what he loved. The name is in his honor, and the project has long been a dream of his mother's, to see a safe place for the other children to enjoy what her son loved so much. The second and final subject we want you to know is that we shared a petition with our community for this Jacobs Park. In a matter of days, we collected 551 signatures. Please see that our little town really does want this. Please help us make it happen. The sooner, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Sarah. You're good. She did a good job. And they've been really working, and I thought it'd be a good deal if she would come and talk to us about it and see what we might be able to do later on. So thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you guys for hearing us.
Okay, thank you. Morning.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jose Pantoja. I'm the Deputy Chief with the Probation Department. And on behalf of our department, I would like to thank the board for this opportunity as we kick off Probation Services Week, which starts on Monday. We have received the...
We were going to do that under supervisors and staff report. If we do it under public comment, the board's not going to be able to talk to you about it.
Oh, my apologies.
That's
I
okay.
thought that
Thank
was
you.
supposed to be up about.
Yeah, that's okay. Is there any other public comment at this time?
We do have another, there were some public comments received from Deckard Technology.
Okay.
And that public comment was in writing, has been distributed to the board via email. It's available in the clerk's office as well.
Okay, thank you.
And we are, in that particular letter, working with the assessor's office as well, because they've been sending these letters to all the clerk of the boards in the state to, for their board of directors, or their board of supervisors to look at.
Any other public address?
I have a public comment.
And who's speaking?
Hi, my name is Christy Mendonça, and I'm sorry I sent you an email just a little while ago,
You're a
Rhonda.
little late. But
My
that's
apologies,
okay.
I joined late. I would just like to speak for a few minutes about the new Parks and Rec Division
New
project.
Parks and Rec.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, hi, well, good morning. My name is Christy Mendonça, and I'm an Oakhurst resident, and for about 10 years, I ran a nonprofit up here, the Bass Lake Education Foundation, and we ran a whole slew of after-school programs, so I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to know what the unmet needs are up here in the Eastern Madera County for the kids. The very first thing I'd like to say, however, is I want to thank the county and the maintenance department for their fabulous response. I put in a request for some trash pickup, and our local guy, Brian, showed up within one business day. Somebody had dumped 8 bags on the side of 620. And just really awesome response. Thank you very much, guys. I'm really glad my county has our backs when it comes to keeping our roads clean. So you guys know that the community is desperate for kids programs. You know, it's just been an ongoing issue here. Certainly the skate park is not a new idea. That's been floating around for, 5 or 6 years. So to back up what Sarah was saying, right now on our library site, we have county-owned land, we have Sierratel-owned land, and we have community college-owned land all along our beautiful River Park, area. And I think it just makes perfect sense to have that area all coalesce into one county-owned Eastern Madera recreation site. In addition to the skate park, which will be our first project, we'd like to see a dog park, possibly a kids splash park, using recycled, reclaimed water. This would not just be a one-off thing. There would be picnic tables, and the river would be cleaned up and the brush cleaned up, and it would be an extensive recreation site. I will refer you to, if anybody has access to a web browser, to Bijou Park in South Lake Tahoe, BIJOU, I believe that's it, Park. They have everything from frisbee golf to BMX bike and skate park, all in one place. We are looking at a small little, snapshot of that. Finally, we already understand all the objections. It's expensive. The county would have to buy land. The community is going to be in uproar because of crime, drugs, and kids having fun. We understand all that. However, it's time for, to step into the 21st century and give the kids the kind of resources they need here in Eastern Madera County. That's why the central location is such a good place, because, you know, we have the CHP office right down the road, and I believe any of these objections can be overcome, and we can make it a safe, fun place for our kids. Thank you very much for hearing me out. Have a good day and stay safe.
Thank you. Any other public comments? If not, I'm going to ask at this time, County Council, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Chairman, there were no reportable actions from your closed session this morning. However, Supervisor Frazier, for the record, attended closed session at 9:37 a.m. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to move to supervisor and staff reports. Maxie, I attended the RHA via phone, WebEx.
Mr. Chairman, I just got a message to ask, especially with our mask on, if we can speak directly into the microphone. They're having a little trouble hearing us.
Yeah, symptom of the situation.
Much better.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, I have nothing to report.
Okay. Jay?
I have nothing other than the items under number 8, which we'll do later in the meeting.
Okay.
No report, Chairman.
No report, Chairman.
Okay. And Supervisor Frazier left for a second, so I'll ask him.
I got one. If we're doing it, we're not going to do it at the end of the meeting.
What's that?
We're not going to do this at the end of the meeting.
No, we're doing it up front for a reason.
Okay, then I got one here. I just, actually I have two. One was from the president of the Indian Lakes Property Owners Association, Steve Main. He just thanked us and everybody else for all the stuff that we've got, putting in the smart meters and everything else through the RWMG grant dollars we got. So they finally have meters and stuff up there for that. I think there's around 600 lots there. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then I got this from a friend of Galen Lee, who got murdered last year, actually July the 6th. And he got his degree from Fresno State, but this is from the Register of Professional Archaeologists for the state, for the United States. And it's pretty long. I don't want to read it all, but it says, whereas Galen D. Lee, a member, a leader, an elder of Norfolk Rancherie of Indians, has consulted extensively with the registrar on the submission of an application for registration to the Registration of Professional Archaeologists. And Mr. Lee's application materials included some of the stuff he's done. I'm just kind of going over quick. He got his completion of his bachelor's degree at Fresno State. He worked himself through that as he worked with a upholstery shop, and he actually worked for me too, learning how to do upholstery, and he opened up his own shop in Oakhurst and put himself through school, leadership in the Society of California Archaeology, provisions of dozens of training sessions and field trials of tribal monitors on topics relating to indigenous knowledge and geographic traditional cultural properties, collaboration with diverse federal state archaeologists, and authorship and co-authorship of about 100 technical reports, GIS layers, and planning documents. And one thing I really like is the publication of a sole author of the 1998 book, Walking Where We Live, Memoirs of a Mono Family by the University of Oklahoma Press, which is sold out a couple times. So anyway, the registrar has planned and prepared a proposal for consideration by the registered board of directors to accept Mr. Lee as a registered professional archaeologist on the basis of his experiences, accomplishments, at least equivalent to a master's degree in anthropology and archaeology or a related field. And whereas Galen Lee was tragically murdered near his home in Norfolk, Madera County on July 6, 2019, we, the board of directors of registered professional archaeologists on July 19th, 2019, that Galen Lee be hereby recognized and commended as a distinguished colleague who has made contributions more than sufficient to qualify a registered professional archaeologist. So I just thought that was really good. I'm going to send this on to his daughter and some of his family members. So I just
Okay.
thank you guys. That's all I'm
Tom.
saying.
Brett, do you have anything to report?
No.
Okay. At this time, we have a proclamation for the Probation Services Week, and go ahead and read that into the record.
Okay, July 24th through 31, 2020, Probation Services Week. Whereas community corrections is an essential part of the justice system, and whereas community corrections professionals uphold the law with dignity while recognizing the right of public to be safeguarded from criminal activity, and whereas community corrections professionals are responsible for supervising adult and juvenile offenders in the community, and whereas community corrections professionals work in partnership with community agencies and groups, and whereas community corrections professionals promote prevention, intervention, and advocacy, and whereas community corrections professionals provide services, support, and protection for victims, and whereas community corrections professionals advocate community and restorative justice, and whereas the community correction professionals are true force for positive change in their communities. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors, Madera County, does hereby recognize and proclaim July 24 through 31, 2020 as Probation Services Week, and encourage all citizens to honor these community correction professionals and to recognize their achievements.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. I'm Jose. So there's not a lot of times where you get to do a redo and things, right? So this is my redo. So I appreciate the acknowledgement in this. But I want to briefly mention additional duties that our juvenile detention officers and our deputy probation officers have taken on just within these last couple months. I'm sure as many departments have had to quickly adjust to all these changes that have been going on. But for the probation department, we're really doing things, to protect the community, to protect our staff, and for the juvenile detention, really to protect the youth that we have in our care. From the onset of this pandemic, probation officers quickly adapted to the local need and have assisted our local public health and our sheriff's department with contact tracing, and our probation officers conducted knock notices and phone calls to local residents in an effort to prevent an outbreak here in Madera County. Additionally, our juvenile detention officers and our probation officers have assisted law enforcement with supervising 2 high-risk, high-profile cases at Fresno hospitals. This was a week-long mission that our staff successfully accomplished. Recently, our adult unit has been in collaboration with the local food bank and has been providing food here to our families, our clients, our probation population in Madera. And if they're unable to come to the office to do a drive-through, then we transport safely the food to the residents. As public servants, we understand what we signed up for, and all of our staff do these jobs proudly. These are just a few of the tasks that the probation department has taken on within the last few months. We're grateful for our jobs, we're grateful to have the support of the board, and we're proud to continue to serve the community of Madera. Again, thank you for this time as we kick off Probation Services Week. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the contribution you make to the safety of our community as well. And I'm going to present this. Okay, consent calendar. Are there any additions to the consent calendar?
No, Mr. Chairman, no additions.
Okay. Any questions from the board on the consent calendar?
No question, no questions this time. Congratulations on
We did it.
on the
Okay.
a couple I just wanted to mention, if it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
One was I and J on the tree mortality and the drought, continuation, the emergencies, which they really, really are. And then and item I'm sorry, I said I a while ago, it was F. On item I just wanted to thank the staff for working with that contractor to lower the price, $110,000 on that work up there on 274 and whatever that road is on the MD6. So thank the staff for, just not accepting just as is and looking at it and lowering the price, $110,000. So thank you.
Good, very good, very good. Okay, any other questions from the board, comments? If not, is there any input from the public on this item?
Second?
Motion made by Max, seconded by Brett. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Item 6B, or let's see, yeah, we're okay to do a public hearing now?
No, it's not 10:30
Not
yet.
quite. Well, what's your clock say, Rhonda? Her clock is
On here
around.
it's
10:27.
10:24.
Okay, we got 3 minutes then. Let's do 7A.
7A, Human Resources Department, discussion and consideration of approval to ratify the agreements between the county and the clerical bargaining unit regarding the administrator transfer and demotion of the following employees: Jacqueline Salazar, Christina Torres, and Michelle Canizales.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Susan Carter reporting for Human Resources. This item is being brought to you as the agenda item mentions. Unfortunately, the governor of the state of California had passed the Budget Act, the 2020 Budget Act, which actually created a shortfall for our Department of Child Support Services as money was, or the Budget Act reduced the amount of money going to the child support program. And to meet the budget shortfall, the Department of Child Support and Human Resources came up with a plan, which we then effectuated by meeting with the clerical unit, bargaining unit. And we were able to administratively work with the bargaining unit to move over 3 employees from child support to our subvented departments, Department of Social Services and Department of Behavioral Health, which fortunately we were able then to meet the shortfall for our Department of Child Support and then also continue to keep those employees on payroll and employed with Madera County. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask.
Any questions?
I'd like to make a statement. The public needs to know that, whether you get promoted up or down or anything like that, you still go on a year's probation. So it's not nothing that is new. It just happens, and that's the way the rules work. So I think it's important that they know that.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve. Is there any comment from the public?
Second?
No comment from the public. Motion is made by Max, seconded by Brett. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Time?
I have 10:30.
Okay. Let's move to item 6B. Hearing.
6B, County Administration Department, hearing to consider an adoption of a resolution approving a lease financing in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $15 million to refinance obligations of the County of Madera under a master lease agreement and finance energy efficiency projects and approving related documents and actions.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jessica Leon, County Administration. So the item before you is in regards to the financing for Phase 3 solar and refinancing for Phase 1 solar. Madera County entered into Phase 1 solar in December of 2013. Phase 1 solar consisted of solar for the Government Center, the Department of Corrections, and an HVAC system for the main library. The county has determined to refinance Phase 1 solar and prepay and defease Phase 1 solar payments. Staff recommends refinancing Phase 1 for several reasons. A reduction of an existing rate of 3.48% to 3.9%, as well as avoiding a balloon payment from Phase 1 financing due in July of 2024. In order to finance the cost of the project, the county has agreed to lease the Juvenile Hall Detention Center located at 28219 Avenue 14 here in Madera. The refinancing of Phase 1 will be a total of $8.6 million, while Phase 3 financing will be a total of $5.5 million. The total financing proposed is $14.1 million for this project. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from the board? This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing at this time. Any public comment on this item? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed.
I think Ashu wanted to say something.
Well, I think that's under 6A.
Oh, okay.
Am I correct?
That's correct, sir. I'll speak under 6A.
Yes. Okay, so the public hearing is closed at this time. We'll bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
So we're leasing the solar, sorry, real quick, and because I know a lot of times in the lease of the solar, you can end up with pretty high true-ups. How do we manage that? Are we still going to have the same kind of energy or cost savings over time?
Right, right. So the total savings, my calculations here. So the total savings with this proposal is 450,000. And Joel, was that per year? The
Yes.
450,000 calculation?
Yes, Supervisor Fraser, Joel Bugay, County Administration. So to answer your first question on the true up, the proposed solar expansion for the corrections facility is expected to negate that true up that corrections is paying. So what had happened is that there's been a couple expansions that had occurred in the jail since the 2013 solar when that was sized.
Okay.
So they no longer fully offset those. So part of Phase 3, actually the majority of the Phase 3 project is to expand that solar field so that way we stop paying PG&E electricity.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion is in order.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yeah.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. Item 6C.
6C, the Board of Supervisors are acting as the Madera County Public Financing Authority. Public Financing Authority hearing to consider adoption of a resolution approving a lease financing in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $15 million to refinance obligations of the County of Madera under a master lease agreement and finance energy efficiency projects and approving related documents and actions.
Okay, so once again, this is for the Phase 3 solar financing and refinancing of Phase 1 solar.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so I'm opening the public hearing at this time. Any questions or comments from the public? No public to address the board or bring it back to the board. The public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is made and second. Let's vote.
I'm sorry, the second one.
Supervisor Poitras on the
Okay.
second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Item 6A.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
6A, County Administration
Sorry.
Department, sorry. General Services Division. Hearing to consider adoption of a resolution making certain findings pursuant to California Government Code 4217.10 through 4217.18 and approving an energy services contract with NG Services US Inc. in an amount not to exceed $5,300,000, including all contingencies for energy saving projects at various county facilities for fiscal years 2021 through 2023 and authorize the chairman to sign.
Okay.
I think it's important to say why 6B and 6C went out of order was make sure there was the money to be able to do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a great point, Supervisor. Good morning, Chairman, Yes, that is exactly why we pulled 6A behind 6B and C to make sure that we needed to make this presentation. So thank you for your previous action. Again, good morning, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Mary Ann C., your Special Projects Manager. And today, a team of us will be here to address any questions and make a presentation for what we are calling Solar Phase 3. On May 5th, staff sought your direction for proceeding with the financing and contract for Solar Phase 3. And at that meeting, you approved in concept what we had laid out as a plan for scope of work, which has shifted a little bit. I'll let Ashu address that. And your board directed staff to come back with the said contract and the financing package. Specifically today, what we're asking to echo the reading is that we would like you to hear our presentation. We'd like you to open a public hearing, which has been properly noticed in advance of today, and approve the subject to resolution, which makes findings pursuant to Government Code 4217.10 to 4217.18, that the anticipated cost of this project, all in, will be less than the savings that the county will make without those improvements. Also, the resolution executes the contract, which, just for your edification, will not be executed until after the loan actually funds. Just as a brief reminder, and Jessica touched on this, my peer, earlier, that your board has elected to enter into a series of contracts with NG Services US for phases 1 and 2. And we're pleased to inform you that each of the guarantees NG has made have been realized. And I also wanted to point out that there were some defective panels in phase 1 that NG has paid for the replacement of on Road 28. And with that, I would like to invite Ashu Jain from NG Services US to discuss the scope and other project details. And just remind you that Jorge Mendoza and I will be available along with Ashu at the conclusion of the presentation to answer any questions.
Good morning, Ashu.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you, Ms. C. It's good to be back in front of the board, even though it's remotely. I will share my screen and take you quickly through this presentation. There really shouldn't be many surprises in this. So let me know if this works.
It says you're starting to share content. There we go. It's up and running.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
All right, so before I start, I'd like to introduce my two colleagues who are also present here. Jeff Waldice is our Senior Project Manager, and Jacob Goring is our Project Manager, and they both work very closely with me and your staff in putting this together. As Ms. C mentioned, we came in front of your board on May 5th and basically presented the same presentation. Project remains pretty much the same. We've deleted a couple of facilities for lighting and for transformers due to various reasons. But basically, we're including lighting at a few facilities, transformer upgrades, a battery storage system for the government center, and solar projects at 2 sites. And I'll quickly take you through these. Please interrupt me at any time if you have any questions. So we're proposing LED lighting at a few facilities, 8 facilities, and county jail being the largest part of that project. As you know, LED lighting saves approximately 50% over your existing lighting, and also is virtually maintenance-free. So there's a lot of maintenance benefits, especially in a jail. That's that's a great benefit. Did I skip anything? Okay, then we also have transformers. These are internal transformers, not the PG&E transformers at two facilities, the government center and juvenile hall. And we chose these facilities because they had the best savings overall. At Madeira Library, the county just re-roofed the building, and we had in phase one put a brand new air conditioning equipment in this well, and we are proposing now to install solar panels on the roof. At the jail, as Mr. Biguet said, you still have a PG&E bill, so it made a lot of sense to install more solar there to pretty much get rid of the entire bill at the jail. So this is a project with a tremendous amount of savings. We're also proposing a battery energy storage system for the government center. There are incentives available from PUC, essentially through PG&E, and so those incentives pay, for a large part of the installation, and there are substantial savings from the battery storage system because, you charge the batteries at night when the cost of power is low, and you use it during the daytime when it is high. So it and there is other demand cost savings. So it's a very attractive project. So I'm going to take you through this financial analysis. It's probably not very clear on my screen, but hopefully you're looking at a hard copy. So let me just make it larger here. So the total cost of the project is, I'm having a little difficulty here. I need to move this out of the way. The total cost of the project is $5.15 million. Staff has done a tremendous job in basically negotiating with us and transferring all the risks of the project to us, which is, what they're supposed to do. So we have agreed to a maximum contingency of almost just around 3%, which is, as you'll know, is pretty low on a project. And so there are some county costs that the county is covering, and overall the amount to be financed is $5.5 million. The county has gotten an extremely attractive rate of 2.4%. I commend the county for a 20-year term, 2.4%. That is a tremendous rate. Interest rate, 0.4% in solar panel degradation, which we guarantee, and our O&M cost is escalating by 3%. So these outlines the various savings buckets. There's savings from the solar project, from the battery energy storage system, LED lighting, the transformers. There are O&M savings, basically because the lighting, you don't have to spend money on lamps and ballasts anymore. And these savings have been reduced a lot. There are recommendations that California Energy Commission has on how to calculate these savings, and we've basically gone with 50% of that to be conservative. This is the battery energy storage system incentive. It's paid over 4 years. So that's the total program savings, and we completely maintain the solar project. The lease payments are structured in this cash flow to come to a net savings of $308,000. So extremely attractive project financially, $309,000 savings, as Mr. Biguet mentioned, $450,000 including the phase one refinancing. So $10.6 million over the life of the project. Let's see. So benefits are pretty apparent. It's basically to save money hedge against rising energy costs. The more you generate on your own, the less dependent you are on PG&E and their rising costs. I mean, PG&E is asking for a 14% price increase this year, and I think 7 and 8 next 2 years. It's a great thing that the county is going to reduce its electricity spend. Improved lighting, save maintenance staff time, and of course, this is good for the environment. If your board chooses to approve this project today, there are certain steps we have to take with PG&E, and there are delays because of that. We expect that this project will take less than a year, but just to be safe, we are saying will be completed by the end of next year. That's the end of my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions at this time.
Questions for Ashu from the board?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm not seeing any. At this time, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the board, and with an expenditure of 5.5 million, I'll save 10.6 million, and I'll do that all day long, every day.
Yeah, great presentation. Staff, congratulations on getting that financing rate. Move to approve.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion made.
Second, and I just wanted to make a statement too. Thank you, Ashu, and your group. You've treated us really well over the years, and I wish I could just add it all up one of these days, all the money you have saved us over the years. So thank you very much. And you can take that chart off there now. It's like, there we go.
I had trouble figuring out how to get rid of that, so that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, your face is ugly enough. I don't want to look at that chart all day.
There are a lot of benefits to.
That's why I have my 2 colleagues with me.
There are a lot of benefits to the LED. To the LED system, you're lowering your wattage, which means you're also decreasing the heat output. You don't have to cool the building as much because the heat isn't as high. You're saving an average of, you go from, as an example, a 65-watt bulb uses 65 watts, an incandescent bulb. You're going down to about 9 watts in a LED. So you don't have the heat. You don't have the expense. You have a 30-year life, so you're not trading out those bulbs every 5,000 hours. It's a great tool. I'm a big fan of LED.
Now, if we could just do something about the hot air from the politicians, right?
That'll work. Then we'd have it all. We'd have it all.
That's why we have Tom calling in remotely.
Yeah, I got a fan blowing on the top of me. It's so hot.
We have a motion and second. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.
That takes care of our.
Now on to phase 4.
Yes, sir. We'll start with that starting today.
Yeah. Let's see.
Thank you.
Is Stephanie here? Stephanie and I? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take her so we can get her off the.
She's on her cell phone in the lobby. Now she's in the foyer. She's hanging out. She's
there we go.
Ready.
So what number are we going to do, bud?
7E and 7D.
Okay.
Which do you want to do first, 7D or E?
Let's do 7D first.
Okay. 7D, Water and Natural Resources Department, presentation and consideration of options for short-term demand management.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Stephanie Agneson, Director of Water and Natural Resources. We have Greg Young. I think you've all met him before. He is joining us remotely via WebEx this morning as well.
He's waving.
I can't see him, so I'm glad he's there. So you'll recall in the decade that we refer to as BC, the time before COVID, when things seemed different, that your board gave direction to me, acting in the role as the GSA manager, to look for some options for water demand management. That was March 10th, 2020. So what we did is we've conducted several interviews with staff for the County of Merced, Stanislaus, and San Luis Obispo, looking for ways of modifying the well ordinance or of treating land use a little bit differently. But what we came away from those interviews with was that we wanted to look at actual data. So Greg Young and I have analyzed some data and are going to share you what demand management might look like and what land use planning changes we're seeing.
Stephanie, give us just 1 second. IT's going to help get the presentation. There we go, up and running.
And also with that presentation, if it goes to the screen, having had to call in a couple times, if it goes onto the one that right now shows all of us, then Tom can see it too.
Right, it just it's a matter of me getting to my buttons quickly.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about what you were talking about seeing, and then I'll shift to Greg. We were talking about seeing crops that were kind of being ripped out and then replaced with almonds. We were talking about development into the rangeland and also conversion from grapes to almonds. So going from kind of medium water using plants to higher water using plants. So we're going to walk you through kind of our methodology as scientists and Greg as an engineer, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what an allocation might mean at the end. So Rhonda, Greg can share his screen. He has the same presentation, and he should be able to click through if he has that ability.
So then I'm going to take your presentation off the lectern.
Okay.
So he can put his on then. Okay.
Okay.
Give me just 1 second then.
Thank you.
It's the same presentation.
It is, but Greg has animated his slides in a way that makes Greg Young the best person to present it.
Okay. No worries.
Okay.
Okay, so Greg, if you want to share your screen, then we can watch the presentation through your screen.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at where on Cisco WebEx I do screen share. I don't have that option, it appears.
Up at the top, there should be some menus that you can that you would be able to pull
Yes.
down.
Okay. Share my meeting window. Nope, that's not it. Is it?
You have one that says share content. When you go to the share.
Yeah, that is not an option for me. It's grayed out. I apologize.
Well, I can be your clicker, Greg.
Okay.
We knew it would come to this.
Yeah.
All right.
I apologize. I do not have that window to share content for some reason.
The beauty of all of these pieces of software is they're different every single time.
So you're just going to have to animate it for us.
Yeah, it's simple enough. And so I believe, Rhonda, you'll be able to put the presentation in place of the view on my screen of the board chambers.
Right.
So I can see what slide we're looking at. Okay.
Give me 1 second here and let me click through it here.
Yeah.
Stephanie, is it up on the lectern?
It is.
Okay, there we go.
Oh.
Yeah, I see that now. So thank you. So first, good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to actually be back in front of you. And as noted earlier, although virtual, it's good to be back in front of the board and be able to talk with you guys about the various aspects of the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. First off, what we're going to talk through a little bit is satellite-based ET analysis and what it is showing us as it relates to these questions and kind of anecdotal evidence Stephanie was just identifying about seeing a variety of things occurring. We wanted to get a little more factual data to understand the direction of activities and where things might be going as it relates to moving ahead with various actions to help with demand reduction, consumptive use reduction more specifically, that we will need to have start to occur within the Madera County GSAs and the Madera County subbase, or the Madera subbasin, the Chowchilla subbasin, and the Delta Mendota subbasin. So first off, just a really quick overview for those on satellite-based ET analysis. The data we're going to look at here is an assessment of the total consumptive use accumulated for the entire year of January 1 through December 31. And we have the years 2010 through 2019 for a variety of different boundary conditions. The first one we'll look at is the Madera Water District, and we'll get to that in a moment. And it's useful because it is something that we would expect to be fairly consistent, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But going back to the satellite-based ET analysis, it is derived from a series of Landsat satellites that pass over the area every 8 to 16 days, and there is a series of data that is recorded and made available, and in combination with local on-the-ground weather data, there are a number of different companies that run some different algorithms, essentially, and calculate an estimate of total evapotranspiration from the crops and the ground surface, regardless of the source of that water, whether that's rainfall that's causing that evapotranspiration or whether that is applied water, either surface or groundwater. From the different entities that are out there, some have more sophisticated tools to try and ground truth. Others are a little less, rely more on just localized available information on weather. But generally, this information is very helpful to understand trends and direction. So what we're going to look at now, I want to really focus on the directional changes that are occurring that we're seeing, and not get caught up in some of the absolute values, because one methodology might come up with a slightly different number than another, but the net result is probably the same trend. So let's go to the next slide, Stephanie. So the area you see here is the Madera Water District Groundwater Sustainability Agency boundary, and it's shown in blue, and there's about 3,200 acres cropped. Next slide. What's important to note is this is from DWR's 2016 crop layer, is that all of that land is the same crop. It's been pistachios for years and years. So that's important because it's helpful for us to see some consistency and gain some trust in what we're seeing in the ET calculations, the evapotranspiration, or otherwise referred to as consumptive use calculations. So let's go to the next slide. When we look at the data that the county acquired, the county was able to purchase some data at a fairly low cost from an entity that has processed some of this already throughout the state, and we were able to get it provided to us and grouped into each of the GSAs that are represented in the entire Madera County. So this is one of those outputs, and this is the Madera Water District boundary that we just looked at. The total evapotranspiration, again, from January 1 through December 31 for each of those years. And what you see is consistency. The trend line barely, if anything, moves, and it is essentially around 12,000 acre feet of water is consumed by those plants on a year after year basis. And that would seem logical because it's one crop type, they're all mature trees, and they just can continue to transpire. Next slide. So what we see, the analysis itself that is gained from the ET, the satellite-based data, is essentially a signature a color signature of heat and transpiration. And it's represented in these kind of color maps that we'll look at a series of these maps. What you see is a pretty consistent green, light green coloring within the Madera Water District GSA boundary. And this is for 2014. Next slide. This is the same for 2016. And if you pay attention to inside the boundary, and if you're able to go back a slide, Stephanie, and then toggle back forward again, you notice that inside the boundary, it's about the same. You may also, your eye may have been attracted to the, especially the area to the, just on the upper right-hand part between those two slides that is a darker red in 2014 and goes to a lighter orange. The difference there is really the evapotranspiration from rain that's occurring. The 2014 is a lot drier condition than 2016 was, and so there was much less evapotranspiration in those other lands. The darker the red, the less ET that has occurred. Again, within the Madera County GSA, it's very consistent. Let's go forward, another slide. Again, we see a pretty consistent picture here. So if you can jump back to 3 slides and just toggle forward again, you notice that within that boundary, it's all very consistent, which gives us a sense that while little things are changing within different fields, there might be an area that's a little, has more or less transpiration. Overall, for the entirety of the boundary, it's pretty consistent. So that gives us some confidence in what this data is helping tell us. Now we're going to go to another location. Next slide. We're going to go to Madera County GSA in the Chowchilla subbasin for the portion that we consider the west side. And one of the reasons for doing this, and you'll see in this picture, is because the county GSAs, and especially in the Madera and the Chowchilla basins, are so geographically dispersed, it's hard to see things visually looking at the entirety. So we just zoomed in to just this Madera GSA in the Chowchilla subbasin, what we call Chowchilla West. About 30,000 acres here. You see in this condition, the graph of ET kind of bounces around a little bit, but especially moving from about 2014 and 2015 forward, it's starting to increase. And if you go ahead and toggle forward, you start to see some changes occurring in the graphs there and the pictures. And so it's kind of telling us that there's crop changes that are occurring, and you're starting to see some of that ET increasing. What's notable, go ahead and go forward to the next slide, is as an example in this area between these two 2012 and 2018 pictures, you see little ET occurring in 2012 and more significant ET occurring in 2018. And this area happened to be replanted and is growing more mature. So that was a new cropping period in 2012, and it's more mature cropping in 2018. Again, this is not to try and call out anybody. This is just simply to note that this ET information is helpful, that when we look at it on a broader geographic scale, we can see trends that are starting to occur. Next slide. So as a series of just representations of that, here we have in 2005 an area that's probably, this is based on just satellite imagery at the time, some bare grazing on the right and an alfalfa or some sort of row crop on the left. And the next slide. 2010, you see planting on the left that is now into new trees and vines and still grazing on the right-hand side. Next slide. 2012, now we have maturing vines and trees on the left hand and newly planted. In fact, if you go back one slide, look on the right-hand area, you see that ground completely changing between 2010 and 2012. And then go forward again to the next slide. 2018, things are becoming more mature. So recognize that, in that particular case, those things were happening all pre-Sigma. But what we start to see is that plants are maturing. They take, a lot of these vineyards and orchards can take 2 to 4 or 5 years to start to reach their maturity of evapotranspiration. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Now when we look at the entirety of the GSAs in Madera County, focused on the Chowchilla and the Madera subbasins, we get an interesting picture of where things are going. Next slide. We see on the left the Madera subbasin for the Madera County GSA, and on the right the Chowchilla subbasin. What's notable is both of those trends are going upward. And so we have talked before and presented to you about the GSP saying we need to start to reduce demand and we need to glide slope downward. And in this case, our current condition is the slope is slightly upward. And so that just points out the need to really move forward with some processes and projects to start to address this demand and get the course correction we need. Next slide. We also want to recognize, as I noted before, not all of that ET and the blue total blue bar on the left is from applied water. So just to give you a sense of how that may vary, we did a kind of rudimentary assessment of what was effective precip. So the rainfall does count towards irrigation. It does, especially it might be happening in the spring or February and wetting up the soil and the plants are using that and consuming that. And that might reduce your need for applied water and irrigation water. But that will vary over time. But even looking at that crude representation, there is an increase occurring in the applied water, even though year to year it may vary, depending on whether it was a wet or dry condition. Next slide. So another example of just things that are occurring out there, here's just an area in the Madera County GSA in the Madera subbasin, March 2015 time period. Next slide. And to August 2017, you see pretty much this entire area is now planted, but these are all very young trees or vines, and they're going to mature. So again, when we looked at that trend going through 2019, it probably is going to continue to march up as some of these trees become more mature if we aren't able to start to take some other actions in the next few years. Next slide. That's that one that got a little funky on us. So let's just go to the next slide. For some reason, Stephanie's machine and my machine don't cooperate on this these couple of slides. So we'll just skip forward. The point is being made here. And then just as one other example, you see what was in this 4 quadrants from April 2010 through August 2018, what was kind of a row crop in 2010, replanted in 2012, or just bare in 2012, essentially, replanted by 2017 and starting to mature in 2018. So we are going to see that, for example, that parcel will continue to have more and more demand on the water resources to be able to satisfy that crop parcel. So when we collect that across the entirety of the GSA, where we've anecdotally been seeing crops changed out, replantings occurring, this data that we saw is giving us a little more factual representation that the ET is overall increasing, and that means the applied water going to that is increasing, and we're going to need to take steps fairly soon to move forward with the demand reduction actions. So I think, Stephanie, next slide, and it's back to you.
Yep. So we did look at some options in terms of a well ordinance modification, but really I think where the county GSA needs to go, and this is really to show good faith to those who are in our subbasin with us. This is to keep the state board out of our hair, because they can step in if you are not doing enough. They can also step in if they find one of the plans is not compliant or substantial enough. So I would like to talk for a little bit about what it would mean in the county GSA to do some sort of allocation for water use. This would be for agricultural water use only. We do have the ability to purchase software. What you saw was kind of a gross level, but we can get much more discrete to look at parcel by parcel or ranch by ranch. We can give people feedback on the water use through it. We can accompany it with a rate structure, and that rate structure can pay for the recharge basins. It can pay for purchasing water. It can pay for all the things we need in order to be sustainable by 2040. An allocation also lets people make individual decisions, and the idea is to build some flexibility into the allocation. but give people some certainty so that they know in each year how much water they would have. There is obviously an administrative burden that accompanies it, and there's a fair amount of ground truthing and checking that would need to accompany it. But our goal, if with your blessing, if this is the direction you want to move into, would be to develop an allocation with help of the advisory committee and bring it to you by the end of this year. Then next year, it could be used as part of a feedback process so that people know how much they have and they see how much is being measured, and we make sure that we are counting correctly. And then it could be tied to a rate structure at the end of that year. These would all be developed in a public process, though. So that concludes what we wanted to share today. We would be glad to take your questions.
Any questions for Stephanie? Go ahead, Brett.
So in that, is it under Sigma, or how do we have the ability to charge for what they would consider their water rights, their mineral rights to their ground? How would we be able to do that legally?
Well, we have an attorney here. So we do have the right under Sigma to charge for groundwater that's being extracted. And we would have to follow everything in 218 and make sure that if it was a tiered rate, each tier tied to certain costs. But that's certainly a very legal option. You want to add anything?
Good morning, members of the board. I'm Mike Linden, Deputy County Counsel. Yes, as Agneson summarized it as well. One point that I was writing notes here that I think we want to consider, it's important not just for today, but for going forward, is as Supervisor Frazier, you mentioned groundwater rights. There's a difference between allocations and rights. Rights are very fundamental. That obviously with the growers, it's the overlying groundwater right, the correlative right to share in the sustainable yield. Based on the work that we have done, it's a relatively low number, approximately 0.5 acre feet per acre. But allocations are different. They're a little bit more of a, I call it an administrative overlay, but they're provided for by Sigma. It's a concept that's taken in part by groundwater adjudications that have taken place in the state of California for over the many decades. But obviously in our case, the allocations are to be put forth in order to avoid groundwater adjudication. And so any allocation system would have to be sensitive to the overlying groundwater right, but based on what we've looked at thus far, we don't believe we'll have any problem with that.
And so in terms of when we're charging, is it anything that's extracted over an allocation? Is it from drop one? How would we go about looking at that if they don't know what their allocation is or how much they're supposed to be taking out? How can they start to move down? Do we have the baseline? Do we know what their safe yield is so that they can do that to get below that? Or is this just assuming that they don't want to pay for any water above what the allocation is, so then they'll turn off the pumps at that point? Or if they're willing to pay, can they just pump as much as they want? I think is going to be a question that is, because if they're willing to pay,
the rich get richer.
And the market allows for it, if the prices go up and they can just pay for that water, it won't reduce the amount of water that's being taken out. It just allows them to pay and say it's okay. Is that, have we thought that?
Thank you, Mike. So the current concept for the allocation that we're working on is there would be a fairly minimal charge for what's called sustainable yield. And we may want to offer that sustainable yield to everybody in the subbasin who's an agricultural user. That might include rangeland. But if you opt in for that, there might be fees associated with it. So there's one charge that would be the most minimal. And then there could be another charge with transitional water. And that's essentially the mining of overdraft that we're doing with the permission of our subbasins that allows us to transition the economy. And so where you go with penalties is a tricky legal area. As you know, you can't just charge a really high rate to decrease use. But we do have a contract now with Raftellus to work that out. I think the first step, though, is to go towards some sort of allocation, and it's that is tied to measuring it. It's the sort of, that management expression, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. That's kind of what we're facing without an allocation.
Because I think when we talked about the glide path, it was 2%, but 2% of what? Were they just supposed to throttle back the pump to 98% power? I think that was kind of nebulous at that time. Now we have this to be able to show what it is that's coming out. And my first question was going to be, well, in those years that it was wetter, we're going to have that same ET or actually less because it's probably colder. It's probably less place for it to go. So you're going to have overall less. But also, as we're going forward with this, do we have the list of all of the projects that are going to be paid for? Raftellus has that so that when it's going out to the 218, people can see that their money is going towards actually helping to solve the problem,
right?
And actually being put in, not just coming to the government center and staying here.
I think that's key, and those studies are underway. There was a recharge contract with David's Engineering that was on the consent agenda. We also have a contract to do land easements or resting or retirement. So we should have those enough to get a cost by the time we would need to do a 218.
That's all of my questions.
Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My questions, or I guess my comments, are going to be maybe more from the big picture standpoint. Right now, in the year 2020, we have had a reduction in our ditch water allocation at Madera Irrigation District, mainly because of lack of rainfall. I mean, it's just we get more rainfall. 2019, we had a lot of ditch water. This year, the ditch water is running from the end of May until about the 10th of August. Last year, it was from like March through October, literally 10/31. So, we had some good recharge and so forth. This year, it's been greatly reduced just because of rainfall or lack thereof. And we're seeing drops in the water table in the aquifer anywhere from 50 feet to 100 feet. Maybe not so close to San Joaquin River, but as you move away from there. So it's our aquifer is this year it's seeing even more depletion than normal. And I'm saying that because I guess we have this data. We've got the ET data. We're seeing the increase in acreage, and can be monitored by the ET data. But the water usage, continues to go up as well. But the water that comes into the basin, it all depends on rainfall. So by saying that, I think we need to take very aggressive action in terms of reducing the pumping to, in the case of the depletion of our aquifer. Number one, as you stated, Stephanie, the state of California, they can come in if they're not happy with what we're doing in terms of action. Number two, there's basin health. The deeper we go with our wells, the water quality actually decreases. We start pumping out more boron, more salts, issues there. And then number three, it really goes, we talk about sustaining our economy or not hurting our economy, but in a lot of ways, by letting people just go with unabated pumping, it's actually hurting our basin and hurting agriculture here in Madera County to the point where things could just come to a screeching halt. So we really are looking to sustain agriculture, and that's what Sigma does. So I am strongly recommending that we move forward with working on allocation reductions so that people have the certainty of knowing what those reductions are, and that we put some teeth into monitoring as in terms of encouraging people to comply. if you know what I mean. And it's a, and I'm not sure that a lot of people have taken this thing seriously. We've known about Sigma since 2014. 2014, that was 6 years ago. And yet, there's people in the county responsibility areas who have continued to expand and expand rapidly. And they're smart people, they're very well educated, and they know about Sigma. And I'm just thinking that there's a lot of people who don't take Sigma seriously. And again, I think that we've got the backbone on the Board of Supervisors to take action, to set those parameters. And again, it's for the long-term sustainability of agriculture in Madera County. So that's my opinion.
David.
Max is next. Supervisor Rodriguez.
Okay.
You know, Stephanie, a number of years ago, I proposed that we start thinking very seriously about doing what Supervisor Poitras suggested. And we haven't taken any steps to do that. We just have to curtail that over planning. We don't have the water, we don't have the resources to do that, yet we talk about it, but we don't do anything about it. Now we're talking about rangeland. There for a while you couldn't plant on rangeland. Now I understand that they are planting on rangeland. So when are we going to get serious about this? We talk about it, but we don't do anything about it. We just, yeah, you have wet years, you have dry years, but the direction we're going is dry years. And do we have to wait until doomsday when we don't have enough water for the people, for the crops that are already planted? I think we should take this seriously and start doing things about it instead of just talking and taking surveys and that type of thing. I think people are in the business to make dollars, you know, like Portia said, you know, they're good people, they're good citizens, but the almighty dollar is the one that dictates what they're going to do now and in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you, Max. Max and I, about probably 2014, we tried to do a moratorium on new wells that's in any of this rangeland that they were converting. At that time, it was converted over 40,000 acres from rangeland to pistachios and almonds, and nobody paid attention. In fact, it was 50 farmers there. So, Rob, I just got to thank you for stepping up saying that, because if you'd have said that when we said it back then, we probably could have got a lot of this stopped. They did not pay attention to Max and I, and we got outvoted on it. We didn't get no moratorium. I think now that everybody realizes what's happening, we got to sustain what we've got out there now. I told the almond guy, the head of the almond organization was there, and he spoke about how important it was on money and all that. And they had the ag commissioner there. She's not there now, but Farm Bureau. And she was telling us all this money, all the jobs and all the money they paid. And I told both of them, what's nothing of nothing? If you have no water, what's that land worth then? It might be worth $20,000, $30,000 an acre now with those trees on it. But if you haven't got no water, it ain't worth shit. So and that's what I told them, because that's what's happening now. I think we got to do that. I think we ought to have planning, come up with a plan how we can stop that conversion rate going on, so that we can't have the more of that rangeland converted over to trees. Every time I drive up and down 99, I see more and more of them being converted over, and we put a halt to that. And one time in the RWMG meeting, one of the farmers came up with the idea of, following 25% of all the different properties, say over 100 acres, follow 25% of each one of those across Madera County to slow the water usage. But as long as we keep converting more of these other properties, just like all those Greg Young put on those pictures there, we're digging ourselves in a deeper hole. So it's time to stop all the bull and put the bull to the horn, and let's stop this right now. We got to get it going. I'm tired of just hearing all the excuses and everything else of why we can or can't. We got to do it.
Yeah, I would agree that that land conversion has to stop. I don't believe a well moratorium is the answer. That is a taking, and you better get your checkbook out if you stop people from being able to use water beneath their land. That's a basic right to property ownership.
No.
So I think you got to go.
David, on the water.
Don't interrupt me, Tom.
Let me just say one thing.
I've got the floor right now. Okay.
Okay, let me do it after.
The fact is that the way to deal with this is through land use and planning, and we need to put a moratorium on land conversion and not a moratorium on wells. I don't think well moratorium is the answer. It's a problem. That's a bigger problem than the other situation. And we have the power of land use planning. We have the ability to do land use planning. And through Sigma, we have even more ability to utilize land use planning. So I think that's the key to not ending up in court and paying people for taking their basic rights, and yet curtailing this huge problem of continued conversion. And go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. There's ways to get to that through different ways. At that point in time, that was the only thing that was at our disposal, was to try and stop by saying you can't do any deep well drilling or anything. That was the only thing. Sigma was not in force yet. We didn't have our plan. It was hard to put the cart before the horse. But when you look at, we have the finite amount of water that's allocated under Sigma. So anytime that there is a conversion, it overall takes away the amount of allocation for each person's acre. The more you have pulling from the same milkshake, all the straws pulling from the same milkshake, you end up with less per person. So I think we're all moving forward saying that. I think we just need to have that number, what that allocation is, what people can do, so that they can make plans based on that, right? The American farmer has constantly had to go against the nature, against soils, against water, figuring out how to do that, and they can figure it out. The technology will come along. There will be better technology next year and the year after that of how to raise these crops with less, but that technology can't catch up if we don't know what it needs to be. What is that magic number? So we're now getting the data that we need to be able to say what that magic number is. And then I've said it many times, the ag community will figure out a way to make that work within that number.
Right.
But until they have that number, they can't get started. Right now, they're dealing with this idea that they have to do less, but they don't know what that is. Right? They're in a maybe. They can up here. I always say that people can make plans based on yes or no. They can't make plans based on maybe and just be left up in the air. So let's give them an answer of what it is, what is their target, what they have to do, and they'll figure it out. And that's just the way. That's the way of of our economy, of our whole form of government and society. So let's make those hard decisions right now. Take all the arrows and bullets that we need to, and there's going to be people that are going to be upset with it. It doesn't matter what the number is.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to just rip the Band-Aid off and move forward. Give a number.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you. When we were trying to do that moratorium on wells, Dave, it wasn't every well. It was wells on converted land.
Right. I know. I
just want to make that clear. I don't want people to think that, we're going to put a moratorium. We were going to check every well when they come in and wanted it. But if it was going to be in land, they're going to convert it like the McKinney Ranch out there on 145. That's when this all came about and we started talking about it. All those Madera, whatever that little subdivision is across the Fresno River there, all their wells started going dry as soon as they put that big $1 million well in there. Right. And that's when Max and I proposed doing a moratorium on wells on converted land that never had big wells on it. They had little wells for watering the cattle and stuff, but not watering millions of trees. So, and maybe it's time now that we got to start checking on wells that when they do like that, maybe a year or two from now, that same place there, McKinney Ranch, might need to drop that another 100, 200 feet. Then we could look at it and say, hey, man, you already sucked it dry. Now what are these homes are going to do across the river there? Yeah. So that's what I meant. I wouldn't, and I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No worries. I'm glad you got your point in there. That's true. CAO Varney.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is not an item to be voted on, but staff is seeking direction on how you would like them to proceed. I know that you had a presentation today on satellite technology. All of the board members have added their concerns, and I think your staff is well equipped to take your concerns and the technology and bring back a viable plan to you well before the end of the year. So if that is the direction of the board, that's how we will proceed.
Yeah, I think it's
absolutely
really clear that we need to do something aggressive, as Supervisor Poitras put it. And I just going back in time, I believe I read a letter before Sigma ever passed from your brother. And I remember him stating in the letter, I just need to know what I can plan on. I know it's going to be less, but I just need to know what to plan on. Of course, his planning, his days are over and he's at rest, and that's good. But he knew what we needed to do, and he was right. So I think we'll take his lead and do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clear as mud.
Pardon?
Clear as mud.
Greg and I are bringing you back an allocation.
Okay, let's go to 7E and finish that.
Comments from the public, Chairman.
Time. Oh, any public comment on 7D? Hearing none, go to 7E.
7E, Flood Control and Water Conservation Agency, Water and Natural Resources, Flood System Repair Property Purchase. These are 3 hearings to consider adoption of a resolution approving purchase of real property for Madera County Flood Control and Water Conservation Agency levies for APN 043-030-020, APN 043-030-026, and APN 023-190-005. Authorizing the chairman to sign purchase agreement and any subsequent documents, and authorizing a notice of exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay. We've been working on this for a while.
We
and
certainly
glad to get to
have.
this point. Any questions from the board on this item? Okay. This is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing on all 3 items for any discussion concerning these 3 items. No public to address the board. The public hearing is closed. Bring it back to the board for consideration. Do we need to do these one at a time or all 3 in one action? One at a time. Let's take them 7E1.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Number 2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Number 3.
I guess move to approve.
And I'll second.
Oh, keep it going.
Let's go.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Item 7B.
7B, Public Health Department, presentation and review of the current status of the Madera County Department of Public Health Strategic Plan.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Supervisors. This is Sarah Boss, Public Health Director. And coming around to you is just a brief summary of the objectives on the Public Health Strategic Plan. It's my pleasure to be here and talk with you this morning about something that is not related to COVID. Department of Public Health actually has a pretty comprehensive strategic plan related to lots of scopes of work that we are funded to do, and links to our process of becoming accredited as a public health department. And so I just have a few slides. This slide that you're seeing and is also at the top of your handout is a summary of kind of the mission of the department and what it is that we do. And we can see that happening today. And then all the different elements that feed into what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Our strategic plan is something that sits underneath the county strategic plan as a part of that element 8, the health element. And so implementation of these objectives help us further the mission of the county. In our strategic plan, we have 6 priorities. The time frame is the fiscal year. So we are, or actually this is a 2-year strategic plan. So we're midway. And I need to come and give you updates periodically in order for us to meet our requirements of accreditation. That's why I'm here today. And so we are improving the community's health, of course. We're having data-driven action and quality improvement. We're improving department efficiency. We're always striving towards funding stability. We would like to strive for an adequate, qualified, and motivated workforce. And of course, pursuing the brand of Madera County that has, there's been a lot of time put into that brand. And so constant alignment and promotion of that brand of the county. So we've made progress on all 6 elements of our strategic plan. There are 146 objectives in this plan, this 2-year plan. And so far we've completed 84 of those objectives and we're only halfway through the time period. We're making progress on 45 and we are still yet to initiate 17 of those. So even in spite of COVID, we have an amazing team that's still working through the normal work that we do on a regular basis. And I just want to highlight a few key accomplishments. The first is that we've implemented some policy and environmental changes, and those are really important to public health because when you're looking at population health as a whole, we want to see that we're actually changing the infrastructure that impacts people's health over a long term. It's about the population as a whole. So there are 2 different ones that I want to highlight. These are not the only ones, but we're especially proud of these. We have an excellent relationship, as you know, with Madera Community Hospital. And this last summer, or this summer actually, we continued what has been the neighborhood farmers market. It was first initiated last summer with Madera Community Hospital on their campus and was very successful. And we were able to also add the use of EBT. So people are able to use WIC vouchers and EBT at the farmers market. And this year, because of what's happening, we moved it to our parking lot and that's continued and been good. So we're able to continue that license. And we're hopeful that next year we'd be able to move it back to the hospital and we'll see. The second policy change that was great, and you heard a lot about it, was the Smoke-Free Parks Initiative with the City of Madera. That was a great success. It was led by our Tobacco Coalition and our students working against tobacco. Second thing is, really quality improvement with our department. And so one of the things that we implemented this year is a process of actually identifying issues. It empowers staff to identify process and systems issues. And so through a standardized process, we're able to identify those issues, identify the people who can explore and figure out what are the real problems that are happening in the system, pilot test some different solutions, and then choose a better method to increase efficiency. And so we've done several quality improvement projects using that method. It's been very successful. We're also striving to increase our grant dollars on a regular basis. We We have more grants from our CMSP program. We've gotten a Kaiser grant, a REACH grant, in addition to many grants that we've applied to for COVID funding. We're maximizing the use of technology. We're one of the few departments that is fully implementing the use of SharePoint in our department, and it's really helping us on the back end, especially on those efficiency measures. But we have upgraded technology throughout the department with regards to getting people onto laptops with docking stations, increasing the technology with the building. That's been a big bump for us as well. But those things have really been important for our ability to respond to COVID. And this one I'm really proud of. The increased satisfaction rate from the survey that's now out there right now, that's happening every July. So from the first time it was given to last year's date, we saw a staff satisfaction increase of 17%. And that was something we were really proud of. We worked hard to really implement a culture that was positive and responsive to staff. And then, of course, we're always promoting the accomplishments of the department, as you know, but we're really present at conferences, leadership regionally, and at the state level. So our next steps, of course, will be to continue to monitor the progress of the report. We'll be back to touch base again to let you know our progress on meeting our goals and our strategic plan. And we are, just in terms of accreditation, still pursuing that. Our timeline was shifted back because of COVID. And so originally, all of our documentation that was required for accreditation was due the 30th of June. And they've postponed that back, and we have an additional 9 months to be able to put all that together and present that and actually move forward with accreditation. So we'll update you with regards to specific timelines as that comes closer. But we do have additional staff that have been brought on to continue with the documentation collection with accreditation. We're still actively pursuing that while we respond to all these other issues that are happening. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Sarah?
I got one, if it's okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Sarah, is that public deal you're going to do tonight at 7 or 6 o'clock still on everything?
Yes, it is. Dr. Paul and I are going to be on Facebook Live and answering questions that people have sent in. And so we encourage you to tune in tonight at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I've been sharing it, and I've had a lot of questions about it. So I've been making sure you're still going to do it. So.
Yes, and then I believe it's on Thursday, Dr. Paul and one of our Spanish-speaking staff are also going to do a Facebook Live in Spanish. And so I'd love for you to promote that as well. And we're not going to be able to get to every question in an hour, but we've looked through them and tried to really highlight the ones that we think are the most urgent.
Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sarah, thank you, and great job. And I just have one request, and this is absolutely post-COVID. It's, there's a lot more important things to be handled. But the farmers market, I think that it's a sleeping giant, and it's something that we could really ramp up here in this community. I think that right now it's being held at different places, but it really hasn't been publicized or marketed the way it could. And there's a lot of communities that they're wildly successful, and that hasn't been the case here. So, again, post-COVID, when we have time, I'd love to sit down with you and the hospital and some others and develop some ideas about, ramping it up to everybody in the community. And because I think a lot of people have an idea that it's, it's on the public health campus, so it's for a certain population. It's not for everybody. It's not what you would see as a traditional Saturday morning farmers market that they'd have in Pasadena or San Luis Obispo or something like that. So I think we're missing out on really making this thing successful. So
I would welcome your help. I think our biggest challenge in that, because that was absolutely my vision for the farmers market, is I wanted it to really be a big community event. And our biggest challenge is that most of the vendors that are willing to come and sell their produce go and sell on the coast, and they're booked, and they are drawing in a rate in terms of what they can sell their produce in different communities at a higher rate than what they're able to sell their produce here. And so it's an economic issue that we're trying to figure out. How do we find more vendors that want to sell here? What days are they available? So it's a bit of a puzzle. And we wanted to make sure at the very least that we had a market open, because we do have a population with EBT and with WIC vouchers in particular, which it's harder for us to accumulate those over time. And if we don't use them in any particular year, they go away. We have to start over. So we want to make sure that that market was available. And that's what we started with first. But we would love your help from the farming community to try and build it up into something that's larger. That'd be great.
Yeah. I think that what you're saying, you get it to the entire community and make it the event where everybody is coming out to, and then their economy of it goes up because everybody's coming up. You have more people coming in, them selling out their produce, and it becomes
consistency and all of those things.
Well, yeah,
location.
and I think that's what it is. I mean, if somebody's let's say there's somebody that is not in the WIC program or they don't get EBT, they're going to see the advertising and think, oh, that's not for me. And so they're not going to show up, where they're going to go here. So I think it's great, advertise that, but if it was advertised, and again, you need help from the Chamber of Commerce, you need help from a lot of different agencies to jump into this thing. So, and I know prior to you doing it, it was done by, I don't know, First Five or somebody. And again, it wasn't a big deal that was advertised a lot of people. And so I think that there's a lot of, it's one of those, chicken or the egg type of thing. And vendors, I think, will show up if they know that they've got a audience, more of an audience. But I think that, they were looking at kind of a finite population in terms of who it was being marketed to. And they're going, I'm not going to make any money here. So they're going to move on. So
We'd love to have it larger and
again,
we'd welcome the
post-COVID.
help.
Yeah,
Great.
there you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Sir, may I ask why it was moved out of Courthouse Park?
Why it was taken out of the park,
Why
the
was it
farmer's
moved?
market?
Yeah, why was it moved?
Okay, so that was before my time. My understanding is that at that time, the market was run by First Five, and that it became very much like identified as just a WIC market and lots of government booths with handouts. So it was not like a market so much, and that there were issues at the park, and that also it just became something that was it was a heavy lift for First Five to be able to continue to do it. And so Vaughn, who, at that time, the previous public health director, decided to keep it going in the back of the public health building just to make sure that there was a place for people to be able to use those vouchers and things like that. When I came, I said, let's not do it in the back of the building. Let's at least find a place. Madera committee stepped up, and it was a first step. So it's farmers markets, they build year over year. And so we've made that first step. This year in our parking lot was, again, just to keep it open because with COVID, it's been a problem. So our vision has been the market that you're describing, and we want to build towards that.
Many times when you have one segment of the population that attends these functions, the other segment kind of stays away because they feel threatened. And the park there was very good because it was centralized. Now, do you get that many people out there in different locations?
We have had good attendance. We've had very good attendance, and one of the things that's been good from an economic standpoint is having at the hospital last year, the employees provided a pretty steady customers in addition to others that were coming. At the Department of Public Health and DSS campus, we also have some steady customers of our employees as well as others that come. But again, it's not the market we're trying to build to. And so identifying the right location is an important aspect of that.
Any questions from the public? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7C.
7C, Office of Development Services, Public Works Department, and Community Economic Development Department Engineering Services Division. Second reading to adopt an ordinance amending Section 2.93.010 of Chapter 2.93 Madera County Code relating to delegation of authority to acquire interest in real property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, Chief of Development Services, here on this item. This was the second hearing, as clerk of the board had made reference. The one change from what you saw last week to this week was the addition of the road commissioner being a signatory.
Right.
I'm available for any questions.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion made and second. Any comments from the public? None from the public. Bring it back. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, item 8A.
8A, Board of Supervisors Department, discussion and consideration to approve a letter of support for Senate Bill 25.
Who's the presenter on?
I am, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
go ahead. Go
If
ahead,
you
sir.
don't mind, I'll do it from right here from the dais.
Yes, go ahead.
8A is a letter of support for Senate Bill 25 authored by Senator Caballero on behalf of making projects within the opportunity zones easier to get through the CEQA process. I can answer any questions you might have about the letter.
Okay, any questions?
Go with it.
Any questions from the public? If not, bring it back to the board. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Motion made. Motion made in second. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
8B.
8B, County Administration Department, discussion and consideration to approve a letter of opposition to Assembly Bill 660.
Again, Mr. Chairman, that's me, Jay Varney, your county CAO. This is a letter in opposition to AB 660, which is a gut and amend bill that's been presented to prevent law enforcement from participating in contact tracing in the future. If you recall from Deputy Chief Pention's presentation earlier, in March and April, law enforcement was critical in keeping COVID from breaking out of containment earlier in our county. So I would request that the board approve this letter. If you have any questions, again, I can answer those for you.
Any questions? Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Tom, seconded by Supervisor Poitras. Any comments from the public? And bring it back. Let's vote.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, that concludes our business for today. This meeting is adjourned.
Great job. I was gonna say, by the Chamber of Commerce.